So, a couple of days ago, at Reform's press conference, Nigel Farage announced that he'd sacked his housing spokesman over the Grenfell comments. He also told the room he hadn't spoken to the man and that it was Richard Tice's department and that he'd only met Simon Dudley once for 2 minutes in his life. Then yesterday morning, Robert Jenrick went on Time Radio to talk about it.
Nigel Farage took immediate action as soon as he heard those insensitive remarks, and that is a mark of the man.
Right, so let's do this. So if you watched my last video, I'll link it at the end if you didn't, you'll already know what happens when you put a claim next to Farage's own words. But for anyone coming into this fresh, here it is.
Nigel Farage took immediate action as soon as he heard those insensitive remarks, and that is a mark of the man.
I haven't spoken to him. He's under Richard Tice's department. Richard appointed him housing spokesman, given his depth of experience in developing new towns, but the comments were deeply inappropriate. They were, frankly, rather shocking to many people, and Richard has dealt with it.
No. Richard Tice is the boss. I'm not the boss of everything anymore. It's not a one-man band. I've devolved power. Maybe he has.
Have you spoken to him? I just want to kind of understand what exactly
I've met him
happened.
once for 2 minutes. I don't know the guy. Richard's in charge.
That's what he calls immediate action, isn't it? That's the mark of a man. Now, before we go any further, it's worth spending a moment on Robert Jenrick, because he's become a generally interesting figure in the space of about 48 hours. He joined Reform in the start of this year, and was quickly appointed the Reform's Chancellor spokesperson. I don't care what they say, they're not the Shadow Chancellor, they are the spokesperson for their Chancellor role. And it really annoys me that journalists don't point this out either. Anyway, it's a significant role that everyone thought was going to go to Richard Tice, which means that when he went on Times Radio this morning to defend Reform's vetting process, praise Farage, decisive leadership, and vouch for the character of the organisation he represents, he was doing all of that on roughly 12 weeks of first-hand experience. The journalist pushed him on the vetting question directly, pointing out that the last couple of weeks alone, 5 MSP candidates had withdrawn in Scotland, the London mayoral candidate had been suspended over comments about Jewish people, a Welsh candidate had stood down after a photograph emerged of him taking a Nazi salute, and the Scottish press officer had quit, all in a fortnight. Is there a problem with vetting process?
There's no evidence that Reform has any greater problem than any of the other political parties.
All parties have bad apples, he said. What matters is how you respond. And then, to illustrate how well Reform responds, he pointed to the Dudley case. Immediate action, mark of a man. The journalist then asked whether Jenrick himself had done sufficient vetting of Reform before he decided to join. His answer was essentially, yes, absolutely. And Reform is the last chance to turn the country around. I mean, questionable because he was about to get fired, but okay, fine. However, a minute later, on whether he was confident in all the candidates currently standing, he says this.
I don't know every one of the 6,000 candidates. If you're asking me who's standing for, Chipping Snodbury Parish Council, no, I'm afraid I don't know.
The man who just vouched for the entire vetting process doesn't know who's been vetted. That's not an unfair gotcha. That's the answer to the question he was asked. The question being, are you confident in the candidates? And the answer being, I couldn't tell you who most of them are. Now, to be fair to Jenrick, he's not going to personally vet 6,000 parish council candidates. That's not the point. The point is that he spent the interview insisting Reform's vetting process is robust, and the process have improved enormously. Bad apples get dealt with swiftly. And then, in the same breath, confirmed he has no visibility over the majority of the people he's just been defending. Now, the journalist asked the question that ties both these days together. Reform has a habit of changing its mind. The triple lock, the two-child benefit cap, nationalisation of energy companies, the Iran position. These policies blow with the wind. Don't they have a credibility problem?
No, I fundamentally disagree with you. If you're asking me, does a party have credibility if it thinks very carefully about a major commitment like the triple lock, then I would argue that I would be much more inclined to trust the party that had thought carefully about that.
So it's just thinking carefully? That's the new explanation for changing your mind? Which is a fine answer the first time, I suppose. But the journalist then asked about two-child benefit cap, which Reform also changed its position on. Jenrick's answer was this.
Not think carefully about the two-child benefit cap because you changed your mind on that.
Look, I think it was the right decision to
change your
come to
mind.
the conclusion. Well, look, I only joined the party at the beginning of this year.
And there it is, 3 months in, defending everything, accountable for nothing. He didn't design the vetting process he's now vouching for. He wasn't there for the policy positions he's now justifying. He met Nigel Farage and decided reform was the last chance to save the country, or more like his career. And now he's the public face of a party he's known for as long as it takes to watch a TV series. And this is the current problem with Jenrick. He keeps making an argument and then immediately providing evidence against it. He did it in the press conference too. He stood up to defend pensioners by condemning people with comfortable lives who want to strip income from those who are struggling. Then 20 minutes later, he's talking about the very people lying in bed with mobility cars on the drive.
And it seems to me there's quite a lot of people who have pretty comfortable lives who seem to want to take away a decent state pension from people who are finding life actually very difficult at the moment. It's not easy to live on £230 a week, particularly when everyone's bills are going through the roof at the moment, because it's completely unfair for people who are getting up in the morning, going to work, putting food on the table for their kids, to see someone living next door to them, lying in bed, having the mobility car on the drive, having an easy life. So we've already set out reforms, and we'll set out more in the months to come for those people. But separate to that, it's very clear that we cannot afford as a country to be providing tens of billions of pounds in benefits.
He argued against his own party welfare policy without appearing to notice. And if you want the full breakdown of how that happened, well, it's in the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.